Hello and welcome to another Explorer gameplay video on the official MTG Arena channel. With the release of Innistrad Remastered, we have access to a few more tools to complete our white, blue and green or Bant colored Spirits deck, which is now indistinguishable from its Pioneer counterpart. And the main additions are 2 copies of Selfless Spirit, 2 mana, 2/1 flyer that can be sacrificed at any point to give creatures we control indestructible until end of turn, so an invaluable tool against sweepers from the blue-white control strategies, but also very useful against opposing creature decks, as we can potentially attack with some of our creatures, leaving others back, threatening to make them indestructible to discourage any attacks from the opponent. And then we also have the full set of Spell Queller, a 2/3 flyer with flash, and the goal is to cast it in response to the opponent putting a spell on the stack, because when Spell Queller enters a battlefield, we can exile target spell with mana value 4 or less, so it doesn't exile any creatures in play, but it can exile a creature that's still on the stack. And then when Spell Queller leaves the battlefield, the exiled card's owner may cast that card without paying its mana cost, so if they manage to remove Spell Queller, they will eventually get their spell back. But the goal of this Bant Spirits deck is to hopefully kill the opponent before that happens, since we have a good mix of early pressure from cheap flying creatures, and then we can hopefully counter a few key cards with Spell Queller, for instance, and then kind of throw the opponent off balance enough to hopefully close out the game in time. And then another advantage of a Bant Spirits deck as opposed to the typical mono-blue build is that we get access to 4 copies of Collected Company, which of course is a great card in any creature strategy. To make room for Collected Company, we can't play too many interactive counter spells, but with Spell Queller as a potential hit with Collected Company, it kind of makes up for it. And then now we can also potentially play Collected Company in response to the opponent casting a spell to potentially hit a Spell Queller, and then use our Collected Company as a pseudo counter spell. Of course, there's still a bit of a randomness involved, but Company has a pretty good hit rate in this deck since we have so many creatures. And then we also have a lot of tribal synergies, ways to pump up our creatures to hopefully close out the game a little bit faster, including 4 copies of Supreme Phantom, a 1/3 flyer giving other spirits we control +1/+1, and we also have 2 copies of the Eagle, a 2/3 flying spirit giving other creatures we control with flying +1/+1. So while it doesn't pump our Skyclave Apparition, it still pumps our other creatures, and of course a great hit with Collected Company. And then a Skyclave Apparition gives us a bit of interaction for things that are already on the battlefield, exiling and opposing a non-land permanent with mana value 4 or less, and then if the opponent manages to deal with Apparition, much like Spell Queller, they will get something in return, but this time just an illusion token as opposed to the original card. And then at 1 mana, another very important card is Mausoleum Wanderer, a 1/1 flyer getting +1/+1 until end of turn whenever another spirit enters a battlefield under our control, and we can sacrifice the Wanderer at any point to counter an instant or sorcery spell unless its controller pays X, where X is its power. And with our various lords like Supreme Phantom and Eagle pumping our creatures, we can also have a larger Wanderer during the opponent's turn to counter key instants and sorceries, and we can always flash in a spirit at instant speed or cast a Collected Company to grow the Wanderer to still counter a spell that the opponent may not expect us to. And then we've got 2 copies of Spectral Sailor as another flash creature that can also be activated for 4 mana to draw a card, so decent mana sink in the grindier matchups. And then at 2 mana, besides Selfless Spirit, we've got 2 copies of Lofty Denial as one of our few non-creature spells in the deck. Can counter unless the opponent pays 1, but if we control a flying creature, it can counter unless the opponent pays 4 instead, so it can also be a key piece of interaction. And then we've got the full set of Rattle Chains, a 2/1 flyer with flash. When it enters, it can give a spirit hexproof until end of turn, so it can protect a key spirit from a removal. And then once the Rattle Chains is in play, we can cast all our spirits as though they had flash, so also makes it easier to disguise some of our counter spells and keeps the opponent guessing. And then a full set of Shacklegeist is also very relevant against opposing creature decks, also very useful against a Greasefang Parhelion combo decks, as we can potentially tap a Greasefang down before it gets a chance to crew one of their vehicles, and we simply need to tap 2 untapped spirits we control to make that happen. Can also be very important against opposing reach creatures like Cavalier of Thorns from the Mono-Green Devotion deck. And then the rest of our deck we've already covered. Then our mana base has access to a little bit of green for Collected Company, otherwise mainly blue-white. And then we also have a bit of interaction built in with our channel lands, Soaring City and Aigancho. And as you can see, plenty of dual lands, including the new Seachrome Coast, which is also a great addition for blue-white spirits. And then a few pathways to help with the green mana so we don't take too much damage off our shock lines. So that's our deck. Now let's jump in some games and see how the deck does. Okay, we're on the draw. Hand seems promising. Wanderer pumped by Supreme Phantom, maybe. And then Selfless Spirit to protect the team. Okay, opponent on a red deck with Soulscar Mage. Could be quite scary, especially if a Goblin Chain Whirler is involved at some point, since it can turn damage into -1 counters. Okay, so could go for a Shacklegeist and then tap an opposing creature down, wait on Supreme Phantom until we can play 2 in the same turn, so they're less likely to die to a 3 damage burn spell. And this way we don't play another 1 toughness creature into a potential Chain Whirler. Although their opponent's deck looks more like a low curve burn deck as opposed to a deck necessarily playing Chain Whirler. So we'll tap down Soulscar. And then they can still get in with a Swiftspear. Okay, Stomp we can counter with a Wanderer. So that works out. Save Shacklegeist. And then go for Selfless Spirit here. Can tap down again. And then next turn, double Supreme Phantom should be quite effective. We've got our green for Collected Company if that shows up. And then we should be able to pressure Chandra.
Watch me heat up the dance floor.
Take 2. Skyclave's also nice, although double Supreme Phantom is more tempting. And then we can send Shacklegeist to Chandra. Selfless Spirit can go face, and then I can just sacrifice Selfless Spirit if Supreme Phantom's in danger.
Come on, Chandra. I know you can do better.
So we can safely block with the Phantoms. Okay, Bolts, I guess, does turn into -4 counters with Soulscar Mage here. So Selfless Spirit's not going to help there. So in that case, probably safe to tap something down with the Shacklegeist's ability. Okay, Spell Queller is good insurance. So how about we Apparition the Soulscar Mage, and then we can rely on Selfless Spirit to be more effective. And then we'll keep up Spell Queller going forward. So Shacklegeists and maybe even Spirit attack. Leave Phantom back as a blocker alongside Apparition, and then we can make both indestructible with a Selfless Spirit if needed. I'll let them attack. Could also just block with a Skyclave Apparition now, although we have to be mindful of burn spells. So something like this could be okay. Okay, play with fire. Threatens to take out Phantom. Make indestructible in response. And an Eidolon. Okay. Opponent's also going to take 2 damage now from casting additional spells. And we're ahead on board, so I don't hate my position. So if I attack all out, opponent cannot cast any more spells. So they're likely chumping, which is fine by me as well. So let's go all out. Opponent takes it. Okay, at 2 life. I like my chances. Okay, Torbrand's actually pretty good, gets around Eidolon, but we can Spell Queller that one. Yeah, otherwise they would have had lethal on board, so I'm glad that worked out. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw, and our hand seems fine. Wander into double Phantom. Can lead with Fountain, since we'll need white mana more than green. And Accompany is always great. Opponent with a Blooming Marsh could be a Greasefang deck. So Phantom makes our Wanderer get +1/+1 permanently. Opponent going for a Grizzly Salvage, which I could counter with Wanderer, and I think I should, since while the pressure from Wanderer is nice, I don't want them to get a Greasefang down with a full graveyard, and don't really have any other interaction, so this is the only way I can slow down the opponent. Even though Wanderer would deal quite a bit of damage over time here, with double Supreme Phantom especially. With a Bloom Command, also could have potentially taken out a smaller Wanderer, but not with the Phantom out. So, no scary cards in graveyard at least. And then now we've got Supreme Phantom plus Spectral Sailor and next turn Company, which we can also keep up at instant speed to potentially hit a Spell Queller. Opponent passes, maybe another Grizzly Salvage incoming. They hit a couple Thoughtseizes and a Greasefang. Still no Parhelion or Istika's Chariot. And Shacklegeist is actually one of our better cards in the matchup, since it can tap down Greasefang before they get a chance to crew a potential Parhelion. That being said, I think Company's still going to be better for us, since their opponent's not really close to getting back a Parhelion here. Okay, Thoughtseize will Company a response. And we could potentially counter Thoughtseize with Mausoleum Wanderer, which would then keep our Shacklegeist around. I could also just keep my Wanderer, and then how much damage are we threatening next turn? 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, so unless they play a blocker for Apparition, we still get there. Yeah, close call. Think I'll play it safe. Just counter the Thoughtseize. Keep Shacklegeist as a permanent answer for the opponent's combo. And then if it takes us 2 turns to kill them, that's still fine. Okay, opponent brings back Informant, which can maybe discard Parhelion, or in this case Chariots, and then next turn it can flash back to get back Greasefang or Traverse, another new addition here. 1 mana sorcery, Delirium enabled, so can find any creature including Greasefang. Okay, play Shacklegeist and tap land. Opponent with a 3/2 Informant, still not enough to crew a Chariot by itself. Although of course they can crew Chariot with the cats that it generates. Parhelion on the other hand, we can avoid getting crewed by using Shacklegeist. So yeah, to play it safe, we'll keep back 2 blockers to tap down a potential creature to crew Parhelion if they manage to somehow discard it. And then, I guess attack like so. Opponent jumps. And then next turn we still have lethal in the air. Opponent casts Greasefang. And before they get a chance to crew anything, we'll tap it down. But as we've said, Chariots can still be crewed by the cats. And it does have haste, thanks to Greasefang. But they should still be dead in the air here. Alright, and a Spell Queller, good insurance. Alright, sweet. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play, and the quadruple Mausoleum Wanderer opening is actually pretty strong. Sign me up. It's gonna take us a while to get to 4 mana for Company, but once we do, that can also pump up our team. And a Spike Fields, we may as well counter, I guess, so it doesn't get exiled. But it doesn't make a huge difference. Okay. So opponent some sort of blue-red deck. And a Lightning Axe, so maybe a Phoenix deck? Nope, Fiery Temper. Reveal to Madness. So opponent gets to cast a Fiery Temper. So Fiery Temper targets the rightmost one, so we can counter the Lightning Axe with this one. So we at least save one Wanderer. Okay. And then now we can keep up Spell Queller if we'd like. Opponent might be a Thing in the Ice deck. Would not be too surprising. And we find our green for company. Perfect. So we'll wait and see what our opponent does. Consider. Could have also considered going with Mausoleum Wanderer plus keep up Spell Queller this turn. But that's okay. And there's a Thing in the Ice as we suspected. I think we let that resolve and then maybe exile it if we hit a Skyclave Apparition of company. I think I'm okay with letting it resolve, although it is a scary proposition. And then we'll company. Opponent Spell Pierces, which we cannot counter back with the Wanderer, that's too bad. Alright, got kind of punished here. Time to go on the Wanderer beatdown. At least now we can Spell Queller, Fading Hope if we'd like. Yeah, I think I gotta keep up the pressure. Thing in the Ice has 2 counters left, so it's pretty close to transforming, at which point it can bounce all our stuff back. I'll play a land so we can potentially top deck Spectral Sailor and activate it without taking damage. Okay, another Fading Hope means they'll be able to cast another Fading Hope here. So that all happens. And Thing in the Ice will transform. So going for Spell Queller on Thing in the Ice probably would not have worked out much better given all the Fading Hopes here. Take 7. And then it's going to be a bit of a race in the air. Opponent's got 1 card left, Skyclave. This still has mana value 2, so that should work out. Play a double Wanderer first, so we can counter any potential counterspell. Alright, so now we're back in the driver's seat. And with a Spell Queller as a leftover. And our opponent explodes. Awesome, on to the next one. Alright, we're on the play, and our hand seems fine. Shacklegeist times 2. To lock opposing creatures down. Apparition and Lofty Denial as more interaction. And then we'll eventually find mana for company. So gonna play Seachrome Coast for now. And then we'll get a flying creature down to make our Lofty Denial better. Opponent Green-White Angels, that is potentially a tough matchup. So I could just Apparition, exile Jada, could keep Apparition for one of their 3 mana Angels, which are also a problem. Going for Apparition is more mana efficient. And Jada is a card we kinda need to deal with, so I'll go for it. And then hopefully next turn we'll pick up another land so we can keep up multiple spells at the same time. Overseer's not the end of the world. And we have mana for company now. Don't need more than 1 green source. So just gonna pass it back, I believe. Could attack with Apparition, but we may be able to pump it later. And I can still tap something down with Shacklegeist here. So we'll have a couple options if our opponent puts something on the stack. Youthful Valkyrie is not the end of the world. Could Collected Company response to try and hit Spell Queller. Maybe in response to their next play. Another Valkyrie. Yeah, let's company. And then if we hit another Apparition, that's great. If we hit Spell Queller, that's great. Eagle plus Spell Queller it is. So that was a huge tempo swing. Can tap both the opponent's creatures down. and start swinging, and our opponent already packs it in, still have a counterspell left over, and a Rattle Chains to protect from opposing removal. On to the next one. Alright, we're on the draw. We'll need to pick up a few lands, but I'll try it. Got interaction in a multitude of ways, can deal with creatures. Denial as a counterspell. Opponent on potentially green devotion. So, scary deck, especially with turn 1 elf. Gonna have to use Lofty Denial before they can pay for it. Is it possible we just keep it up on turn 2? Although then it only counters unless the opponent pays 1. A key card we want to be able to counter is something like a Cavalier of Thorns. Although we can also tap it down with Shacklegeist to keep attacking past it. Okay, found another blue or white source. Probably play this on white so we can Apparition, and then I'll have green for company later. And then could keep up Lofty Denial for potential Cavalier of Thorns, as opposed to playing a Shacklegeist. I think that's reasonable. Alright, perfect. So that's dealt with. And then now do we want to Apparition an Elf? Or just play Eagle? Getting rid of an Elf is not bad. Strands the opponent on 4 mana. So they can't Storm the Festival or potentially even play another Cavalier if they're stuck on 4 mana. And it's not like Apparition has other things we really need to exile. Can fly over most ground creatures. And we can pressure Planeswalkers with our flyers too. Right, Cura. So, Eagle does not pump our Skyclave Apparition, since it doesn't fly. But we'll be able to company now, so that's nice. Don't have double blue for double Shacklegeist, so just gonna keep it simple, go for company. Now the question is, do I keep it up to potentially hit a Spell Queller? I don't think that's all that relevant with our opponents probably casting 5 and 6 mana cards. So I'm probably better off casting it now in case we hit another Skyclave for Kiora or a Lord to pump Apparition. And yeah, we hit both. Apparition plus Supreme Phantom. Exile Kiora. And then we still have Shacklegeist to tap down a potential Cavalier. Mono green, not known for having a lot of removal, so Skyclave is a safe investment. And there's another Cavalier. So Spell Queller would not have really helped. Alright, now we've got an interesting choice. If I go for Shacklegeist, that's my only play for the turn, so that's a bit disappointing. So we might once again go for Collected Company. And then I have to decide whether I want to cast it now in case we hit another Shacklegeist. Hit Skyclave, Eagle, and Spell Queller. Well, Skyclave can exile Stomper, so that seems fine. Removes a bit of devotion in case they hit a Nykthos. And then no attacks for now. But then next turn we can maybe start attacking. So best draw would probably just be an untapped blue source. Nissa we should be able to take out. And a Karn. Alright, Karn might be the biggest priority, but we'll see. The -2 might go for something big. Karn's Silex. Yeah, that's a problem. So now what? Opponent can play Silex and then blow it up the turn after. But we can do quite a bit of damage in the meantime, of course. And we also have a Spell Queller to potentially counter the Silex. So I could try and take out both Planeswalkers, keep up Spell Queller, potentially lose Supreme Phantom in the process. Yeah, I think we keep up Spell Queller for Silex, so we don't have to deal with it. So we want to take out Karn. And then I can send the other 2 and Phantom at Nissa. And then if they want to kill Phantom, then at least we kill Nissa. And we're guaranteed to kill Karn, which is the biggest threat. Could also send Phantom and a 3-powered creature at Karn, and then the rest at Nissa, since Karn's not a threat if it cannot -2 again. Maybe that's better. So let's swap these around. And then we have our 2 flyers going at Karn. And the 3/3s going at Nissa. That seems fine. And keep up Spell Queller. Opponent kills Eagle. Saves Karn in the process. Nissa down.
I am in need of rest.
And then we have the Spell Queller for Silex. And if they don't make a Spell Queller, we can always just Company instead.
Say hello to my little friend.
Okay, there's Nykthos, only 3 Devotion, luckily. And there's a Silex. Okay, very important that we don't somehow lose a Spell Queller here. But that shouldn't be a problem. By playing Shacklegeist, we take out Karn, but our opponent's got a backup. Okay. So what does the next Karn get? Could be something big. Maybe a Leveler to try and destroy Spell Queller. Could see a Portal to Phyrexia. Yeah, it's gonna be a Leveler. Rattle Chains can protect whatever they try and take out. So once again, an interesting spot. Opponent has access to 6, 7 mana, and can easily become 8 with another land off the top. We'll just keep up Rattle Chains, if not we can Company. And then we don't want to put any of our important creatures in harm's way. And then it doesn't matter too much which apparitions attack here, since their opponent's going to be able to take out one with a 3-drop underneath. And then our long-term solution to Leveler is to just tap it down using Shacklegeist. Alright, opponent found a Lanor Elves, which is basically free here thanks to Nykthos, but it still doesn't help them cast a Leveler. So let's Company. And hit an Apparition, that's the last one. Only has Elves as a target. Still no double blue, so yeah, I think we just pass. Our plan's pretty much the same as last turn. Could also play Shacklegeist, tap down the forest in their upkeep, so they can tap it for mana. And then what happens? Our opponent still has a Nykthos available, but even with another land, they wouldn't be able to Leveler us. And everything they cast is still going to be kind of neutral with Nykthos out. So yeah, I think we get to Shacklegeist down, so we can actually make some progress. And then make sure to stop on upkeep, since we absolutely don't want them destroying our Spell Queller. And then we can tap additional creatures down as well here. Okay, opponent's got a land, still 1 mana short. And then now we'll have Rattle Chains to protect our creatures. And there's our double blue at long last. So I can even play Eagle to amp up the pressure. And then if I attack all out, I'm pretty sure we just have lethal here. Yeah, the math checks out. Awesome. Alright, so we got to see our Bant Spirits deck in action, and I was quite impressed by how it performed today. It seems like a pretty well-rounded deck. We have a good mix of interaction for spells on the stack with Spell Queller and Lofty Denial, and then we can answer permanents on the board with Skyclave. Company, always one of the more powerful cards in any creature strategy, but then we can also close out the game quite quickly by just pumping the team and flying over with our creatures. So yeah, if you're interested in a creature tribal strategy for Explorer, Bant Spirits might be one of the best options out there. So that'll do it for today's gameplay. Want to thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed, and as always, have a nice day.